The sea is calm, almost respectful. No aircraft on the deck, no voices echoing through the passageways. Only the slow breath of the Pacific sliding against cold steel. The ship does not know the war is over. Her hull creaks as it always has, a deep metallic groan like an old sailor shifting his weight after too many nights without sleep. Rust streaks her sides. Salt has eaten into the paint, but she is still afloat, still waiting. Inside the hangar deck, the smell of oil lingers. Old oil, burned oil, the kind that never truly leaves a warship, no matter how many times she is scrubbed clean. The deck is empty now. No wildcats, no Avengers, just shadows. And the faint drip of seawater through seams worn thin by years of shock and strain. There are no men aboard. For the first time in her life, she stands watch alone. Far away on distant ships, men prepare instruments, cameras, sensors, clipboards held by steady hands that have never stood on a flight deck under fire. They speak in calm voices, measured voices, the language of tests, of data, of progress. No one speaks her name out loud. The countdown begins. 5. The ocean holds its breath. 4. This ship has been torpedoed, bombed, burned. She has limped home, bleeding oil and smoke, while others sank beneath her. 3. She has outlived younger ships, faster ships, more modern ships. 2. She survived the war. 1. A white sun blooms on the horizon, and in that blinding silence, the last watch begins. She was never meant to be this. When her keel was laid down in 1920, the world still pretended the last great war had ended all wars. Treaties were signed, tonnage was counted, guns were limited by ink and optimism. On paper, she was a battle cruiser, long, lean, fast, designed to hunt and to run. Her hull stretched over 800 feet, a blade of steel cutting through the water at more than 30 knots. Boilers fed turbines that shook the deck beneath a man's boots. When she first moved under her own power, the vibration traveled through every rivet, every frame, like a heartbeat learning its rhythm. But history changed its mind. The Washington Naval Treaty arrived like a quiet order passed down a line of officers. The age of big guns was being questioned. Aircraft were no longer novelties, they were becoming weapons. So she was reborn before she ever fired a shot. Her massive guns were never installed. Instead, her spine was opened, reshaped, hollowed out, to make room for hangar decks and aviation fuel. Steel was cut away. New steel welded in its place. Elevators punched through decks. A flight deck stretched across her back like a scar that never healed and never needed to. By the time she was commissioned in 1927, she was something new, something unsettling. An aircraft carrier with the speed of a predator. Men walked her decks with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. This was not a battleship, not a cruiser. She was an experiment made real. A question in steel, asking what the future of war would look like. They gave her a name that belonged to another age, USS Saratoga, CV-3. The sailors called her Sister Sarah. She trained in peacetime seas, blue skies, calm water. Planes lifted off her deck in neat formations, engines roaring, propellers biting into clean air instead of smoke. Pilots joked. Deck crews shouted and laughed. The steel beneath their feet was unscarred, but even then she felt it. War leaves a mark long before the first shot is fired. Her size made her powerful and vulnerable. Her speed made her valuable and irreplaceable. Every exercise revealed both promise and fear. She could strike farther than any battleship. She could vanish over the horizon before guns could answer. And if she was ever caught, truly caught, no amount of speed would save her. Still, she sailed across the Atlantic, through the Panama Canal, into the vast, indifferent Pacific. Years passed, the world darkened, flags changed, empires sharpened their knives, radios carried news of burning cities and marching armies. Sister Sarah remained afloat, training, experimenting, waiting, built for a war that hadn't come yet, a war that would not care how new she was or how old she would become. She did not know her first enemy would be silence, or that survival would become her curse. She only knew her duty, and she was ready to answer. December 7th, 1941. The sun rises over Pearl Harbor the same way it always has. Soft light, warm colors, a calm that feels earned and false. But Sister Sarah is not there. She is hundreds of miles away, moving through open water, her bow cutting a clean white line across the Pacific. The deck vibrates under steady speed. Engines hum with disciplined confidence. Another routine mission. Another ordinary morning. No alarms, no smoke, no warning. Then the radio crackles. At first, the words don't make sense. Broken sentences, overlapping voices, someone shouting coordinates, someone else shouting louder. The signal fades in and out, swallowed by static. Air raid. Pearl Harbor. This is not a drill. Men freeze where they stand. A plane handler stops mid-step, one boot hanging in the air. An officer grips the railing harder than necessary. Down below, in the engine rooms, the turbines keep turning, unaware that the world has just split open. Confirmation comes quickly, too quickly. Battleships burning, aircraft destroyed on the ground, thousands dead in minutes. The war has begun. Without her, there is no cheer, no relief, no gratitude for survival, only silence. She should have been there. That truth settles over the ship like cold mist. Every man aboard knows it. They imagine the harbor filled with smoke, oil burning on water, steel screaming as bombs tear through decks. They imagine sisters torn open at their moorings, unable to maneuver, unable to fight back. They imagine her place among them, and they are ashamed for being alive. Orders follow, sharp, urgent. She turns back toward Hawaii at flank speed, engines pushed hard, the deck shuddering, as if she can feel the distance she failed to close. Aircraft are readied, watches doubled, guns manned, but the attack is already over. By the time she reaches Pearl Harbor, the sea is stained black with fuel oil. The air still smells of smoke and burned metal. Sunlight glints off wreckage half submerged along Battleship Row. Masts rise from the water like gravestones. Men stand along her rails and stare. Some recognize silhouettes that should never look that way. Some search for names they trained beside. Some say nothing at all. She slides past the ruin, untouched, unmarked, and suddenly ancient. Survival carries weight. She becomes what remains. Within weeks, there is no time left for guilt. The enemy is still moving, still hunting, still winning. Sister Sarah is rushed into service, her air group thrown into a war that does not wait for experience. Then, in January, it finds her. A torpedo strikes her starboard side with a sound that no drill ever prepares you for. A dull, crushing impact, followed by the scream of twisting steel. The deck lurches. Men are thrown from their feet. Lights go out. Steam floods compartments in blinding white clouds. The sea rushes in, icy and unstoppable. She does not sink. Damage control teams fight through smoke and darkness, hands burned, lungs raw, voices hoarse from shouting orders over the roar of escaping air. Pumps engage, bulkheads hold. The list is checked. Barely. She limps away, wounded but alive, again. Pearl Harbor spared her. The enemy did not. And now she understands. She is no longer the ship that missed the war. She is the ship the war refuses to let go. Steel scarred, crew bloodied, flag still flying. The Pacific has marked her, and it is not finished. Pain becomes familiar. That is how sailors know they have been at war too long. After the torpedo, after the long limp back to repair yards, Sister Sarah returns to the sea wearing fresh paint over old wounds. Steel replaced, frames reinforced, new equipment bolted onto scarred decks. On paper, she is restored. In truth, she is learning how to survive. The Pacific does not allow hesitation. Enemy submarines wait beneath calm surfaces. Aircraft appear without warning. Every horizon feels watched. Every night sounds heavier than the last. In August 1942, she sails again into danger. Guadalcanal, a name whispered with exhaustion and dread. The island is a knife pressed against the throat of supply lines. Whoever holds the skies holds the sea. Whoever controls the sea decides who starves and who advances. She launches aircraft until the deck is slick with oil and rubber. Engines scream. Arresting wires snap taut again and again, shuddering through the hull. The smell of aviation fuel mixes with salt air and sweat. Planes return damaged. Some do not return at all. Then it happens again. Another torpedo, another underwater explosion, another violent jolt that feels like the ocean itself has struck her in anger. The lights flicker, bulkheads groan, men brace for the sound that means death. Rushing water. It does not come. Once more, she stays afloat. Her damage control crews move like ghosts through smoke-filled compartments, boots splashing through shallow flooding, hands slapping steel to feel for heat, for cracks, for failure. Orders are shouted. A man slips and vanishes into darkness below. Someone pulls him back. Someone else does not come back at all. She survives. But she cannot fight. Again, she withdraws. Each retreat carves something out of her reputation. Faster carriers take her place. Newer hulls, stronger decks, larger air groups. Ships built with lessons learned from her suffering. She becomes the old carrier, the one that keeps getting hit, the one that keeps coming back. Repairs stretch into months. Her crew changes. Familiar faces vanish, transferred, killed, reassigned. The steel remains, but the memories shift. Every patch plate marks a moment where the sea tried to claim her. By 1943, she is no longer expected to lead. She supports, she trains, she fills gaps. Her role becomes less glorious and more necessary. She carries night fighters when others cannot, launches in conditions that punish both pilot and deck crew, blacked-out operations, minimal lights, engines roaring into nothing but darkness ahead. At night, the ocean feels closer, planes slam onto the deck harder, arresting cables scream under strain. Men run guided by instinct and shouted warnings they barely hear over the wind. One misstep means being pulled under a propeller, or over the side into black water that does not give second chances. Still, she holds. Other ships are lost. Explosions on the horizon bloom like distant storms. Radio reports speak of sudden silence where voices once answered. Coordinates replace names. She keeps moving. Every sailor aboard understands now. This ship is not lucky. Luck runs out. She is stubborn, steel bent but not broken. A hull that absorbs punishment meant to kill. A crew that refuses to abandon her, because she has not abandoned them. The war moves on without slowing. New carriers dominate headlines. New victories rewrite the narrative. But when the sea grows violent, when the mission is dangerous, when survival matters more than glory, they still call on her, the ship that refuses to sink, and the men aboard know the truth that history will forget. Survival is not an accident. It is earned, one scar at a time. Night changes everything. The ocean loses its edges. The horizon disappears. Distance becomes a rumor. On Sister Sarah's flight deck, darkness is not absence of light. It is a weapon. Red lamps glow faintly, barely enough to outline hands and faces. Every step feels closer to the edge than it should. The wind is colder at night, cutting through flight jackets, stiff with salt and sweat. She becomes something new again. A night carrier, engines warm in the dark, their low rumble vibrating through the hull like restrained violence. Pilots sit in cramped cockpits, goggles fogging, breath loud in their helmets. They cannot see the deck crew clearly. They trust gestures, muscle memory, faith. One mistake out here means fire or water. The launch signal comes. Throttles advance. Propellers tear at the air. Aircraft race down the deck and vanish into black nothingness, swallowed whole by the Pacific night. Below decks, men listen. They always listen. For the thud of landing gear, for the screech of arresting wires, for the silence that means a plane missed the deck, and the sea took it instead. Guadalcanal burns in the distance, not with flame alone, but with pressure. Every mission matters. Every aircraft lost weakens the thin line holding the island. Enemy bombers come at night now, trying to exploit the same darkness. Radar screens glow in small compartments, green lines sweeping endlessly. Contacts appear, disappear, appear again closer. General quarters, boots pound steel ladders. Hatches slam shut. Anti-aircraft crews take their stations, fingers numb, eyes strained. The smell of cordite from earlier engagements still clings to the gun mounts. Then the sky erupts. Searchlights stab upward. Tracers arc into darkness, red and white threads weaving violent patterns overhead. The sound is constant, layered, deafening. 5-inch guns hammer. Smaller mounts chatter in frantic bursts. The ship shudders with every salvo, recoil traveling through frames already stressed by past wounds. Bombs fall nearby. The sea jumps. Water crashes onto the deck, cold and heavy. A blast rattles teeth and ribs. Somewhere below, a man is knocked unconscious against a bulkhead. He comes to with blood in his mouth and keeps working. Planes come back in pieces. One lands with a tire shredded, sparks screaming as metal scrapes steel. Another clips the deck edge, spins, and stops inches from the island's structure. Deck crews swarm instantly, hauling wreckage clear before the next aircraft arrives. There is no time to think, only move, only signal, only survive. In the black water around her, destroyers cut tight circles, their wakes glowing faintly with phosphorescence. Submarines are rumored nearby, always rumored nearby. Every shadow beneath the surface feels alive, and through it all, she holds position. Older than most, slower to recover planes, less protected than the ships now entering service, still indispensable. Her crew learns each other by voice and touch. They recognize footsteps. They know who swears when afraid, who goes quiet, who never stops moving no matter how bad it gets. Brotherhood is forged here, not in speeches, but in shared exhaustion. By dawn, the deck is stained. Oil, hydraulic fluid, scorched paint. The smell of burned powder hangs in the air, mixing with the metallic tang of fear that never fully leaves. The sun rises indifferent. She has survived another night. The war inches forward. Guadalcanal will eventually be secured. History will mark it as a turning point. Few will remember the nights, the trembling deck, the blind launches, the silent gaps where planes never returned. Sister Sarah remembers, her steel remembers, and the sea is still waiting. By 1944, the war has learned how to move faster than her. New carriers arrive in waves, broad flight decks, stronger armor, air groups so large they blot out the sun when they launch. Their hulls are clean, their machinery tight. They are built with every lesson Sister Sarah paid for in blood and steel. Beside them, she looks tired. She still makes speed, but not effortlessly. Her engines carry the strain of years at flank. Her deck crews work harder to keep pace. Her air group is smaller now, her role more precise, more limited. No longer the spear, now the shield. She trains pilots who will never serve on her, young men with fresh faces and unscarred hands. They arrive confident, they leave quieter. She teaches them how to land when the deck bucks beneath their wheels, how to trust signals in bad weather, how to survive mistakes without panicking. Some of them will never come back from their first real combat deployment. She knows this. She ferries aircraft across vast distances, deck packed tight, wings folded like resting birds. She supports secondary operations. She fills the gaps others cannot afford to cover. And still, she sails forward. In the Indian Ocean, far from the headlines of the Central Pacific, she strikes again. Enemy positions burn, oil tanks erupt, airfields are cratered. The missions matter, even if fewer cameras are watching. But history is already writing its favorites. Fast carriers take the glory. Amphibious landings dominate the news. The war accelerates toward an ending no one yet understands. Atomic rumors circulate in whispers. Something decisive is coming. She feels it in the way orders change, in the way repairs are postponed instead of perfected, in the way newer ships are prioritized for every critical task. She is still useful, but no longer essential. The men aboard sense it too. There is pride, but also resignation. They have done their part. They have absorbed punishment meant for others. They have stayed afloat when sinking would have been easier. When victory finally comes, it does not feel like triumph. The sea is quiet again. Guns fall silent. Aircraft return without damage. The smell of cordite fades, replaced by paint and cleaning solvent. Men talk about home in serious voices now, not superstitious ones. She is still alive. That should be enough. But the war she was built for, the war she survived, no longer needs her. Steel ages faster than memory. And somewhere ahead, beyond celebration and parades, another fate is already waiting, patient, impersonal, and absolute. Peace arrives without mercy. Orders come stripped of emotion. No speeches, no ceremony, just coordinates, and purpose redefined. Sister Sarah is no longer a weapon. She is a subject. Bikini Atoll, a name that means nothing to Steel, and everything to the men who once trusted her with their lives. She sails there under her own power, engines steady, decks empty. The war is over, but she moves as if still on patrol, habit carved too deep to abandon. Her crew is gone now, removed carefully, methodically. Every ladder climbed for the last time, every compartment checked, then sealed. Men pause at the rail before leaving. Some place a hand on the steel. Some do not look back. They know what comes next. She is anchored among others, battleships, cruisers, submarines, a graveyard assembled before the dead are buried, hulls painted bright for visibility, instruments wired into places once occupied by men. The sea is calm again, too calm. The first test comes, a flash brighter than anything she has ever seen, brighter than burning fuel, brighter than muzzle blast, brighter than sunrise at sea. For an instant, the world turns white. The shock wave hits like a fist from the sky. Air slams into steel. Water lifts, then collapses. Her hull shudders, frames screaming in protest. Plates buckle, antennas vanish. The deck twists, but holds. When the light fades, she is still there, scarred, blackened, radioactive spray dripping down her sides like poisoned rain. She has survived again. Observers are surprised. Clipboards adjust expectations. Cameras keep rolling. So they try again. This time the bomb comes from below. The ocean erupts beneath her keel. Water turns solid, hammering upward with impossible force. The shock travels through her spine, snapping strength she no longer has to give. Compartments rupture, seams split wide. The sea pours in, not rushing, but claiming. She lists slowly. No alarms sound. No men run. No orders are shouted. Just steel, yielding. She rolls to port, heavy, dignified, like an old warrior finally kneeling. Water floods the flight deck that once roared with engines and life. Air escapes from within her hull in long, hollow groans. A final breath stretched across minutes. Then she slips beneath the surface, not in fire, not in battle, not surrounded by enemies, but alone. The ocean closes over her gently, as if even it understands what has been taken. Down there she remains, resting upright, broken but not scattered. Her flight deck sits in shadow, corals beginning their slow work, fish moving through spaces once filled with men and machines. Light filters down in pale shafts, touching her hull like hesitant fingers. Time moves differently here. There are no explosions, no engines, no commands, only pressure and memory. Divers will come decades later. They will swim through her hangar deck in silence, careful not to disturb what feels like sacred ground. They will see the scale of her, the strength she once carried, the scars that tell her story better than words ever could. She does not defend herself now. She does not need to. She has nothing left to prove. Above her, the world moves on. Wars change shape. Ships grow larger, then obsolete. Names are forgotten. Lessons are repeated. But Sister Sarah endures. A monument without stone, a grave without bodies, a warship that outlived the war and was finally claimed by peace. Steel still standing below, duty fulfilled. Watch ended.